So, I don't have a bedtime story. This is going to feel like it because I'm reading out of my little handy notebook from Creator Day back in late August. So, I was going through team records and I was going through player records. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to do a video where I talk about the 10 records that teams set that I don't think will ever get beaten, and then 10 records that players set that I don't think will ever get beaten. And of course, a lot of this is going to come down to the 80s. If it's a scoring record, a lot of it's going to be 80s. If it has to do with, teams putting up an insanely great season, it's going to be Montreal. So with that in mind, let's go ahead and delve into this. Number 10 on the team records that I don't think will ever get beaten. Washington's 21-point season, which has stood since 1974-75. With overtime losses and shootout losses counting as points, I can't see any team ever getting down to 21 points again. I don't think that will ever happen. Number 9, losses. 71 by San Jose in 92-93. That was an 84-game season. They won 11, so they avoided the 8-game winning season that Washington put up. So that's good for them. The 8-game season for Washington. Yeah, those 8 wins, those aren't on the list because Arizona's trying to get there. So due to Arizona's really awful start, I can't say that nobody will ever get less than 8 wins. I can't. But I can say 71 losses are pretty near impossible because, again, the overtime loss, the shootout loss doesn't count as a loss. It's strange. It's really, really weird. And there's another video that I'm working on with information in pages, a couple pages back, that's really weird. That has to do with the overtime losses and shootout losses and how that affects your record. But that's for another video. Number 8 on the list is the road losing streak of the 92-93 Ottawa Senators at 38. 38 losses in a row on the road. That's an insane total. It really is. Crazy. Number 7, penalty minutes. The 91-92 Buffalo Sabres. Well, when you have Rob Ray and Brad May and everybody else likes to fight, odds are you'll put up 2,713 penalty minutes. Penalties don't get called like they used to, and when I wrote this down yesterday, I swear I didn't know what was going to happen between Calgary and Detroit. I had no idea. I had no idea the Flames and the Red Wings were going to do what they did last night, and that penalty minute totals were going to be kind of high. But nevertheless, I don't think anybody's going to hit 2,713 penalty minutes again. Number 6, Boston in 1977-78 had 11 20-goal scorers. Just picture that, okay? So if a 20-goal scorer is a defenseman, that's 10 forwards. If none of your defensemen score 20, that's 11 forwards. And you have 12 in the lineup at any given point in time. That's balanced scoring. And yet those Bruins did not win the Stanley Cup. That, of course, was under Don Cherry. Don Cherry will talk about those Bruins for hours if you let him. Number 5, most goals in a game was scored by Montreal in 1920, and it's 16. I think it's safe to say that in this day and age, 16 goals in a game for one team likely will never happen again. So that is a record that I think is pretty safe. Number 4, the 1988-89 Pittsburgh Penguins had 119 power play goals. We've got teams that don't score 119 goals in half a season now. So the idea of scoring that many on the power play, it's impossible. With the way the game's played now, it's basically impossible. Number 3, again, goals related, the 83-84 Oilers with 446 goals for. The top 5 highest goals for seasons are all from the 80s Oilers. So if they scored 5 goals in a game, that was a slow game for them. So when you look at Grant Fuhr's totals and you go, oh, he allowed a lot of goals. Yeah, there was no defense. None. They didn't play defense. Paul Coffey was a rover. He didn't play defense. Huddy played defense. Lowe played defense. Everybody else was just kind of, well, we're here. And then, goals went in at their end because it didn't matter. They were ahead 6-1 or 6-2 or 8-2. So it was the most freewheeling hockey that I'd ever seen. Number 2, the undefeated streak of the Philadelphia Flyers, 79-80, 35 games. Even if you don't count overtime loss or shootout loss as a loss. So if you're just saying, okay, well, point streak, I can't see anybody ever getting 35 again. That is an insane streak that has stood for almost 30 years, and I don't think anybody ever passes it. And number one, from 1976-77, the Montreal Canadiens with 8 regulation losses. 8. And they didn't like losing those 8. They were perfectionists. Ken Dryden talked about it in an interview I read that anytime they lost, they got really angry at themselves. So any mark of any team's greatness is usually that they're not happy with where they are, and they know they can get better. That's the scary thing about dynasties, is that usually a dynasty team will look at themselves and say, yeah, but we can get better than this. So, yeah, Montreal 76-77, that is a record that I really can't see ever being beaten. Now, player records. So these are personal player records. Spoiler alert, if you don't like Gretzky, you're not going to be happy with this list. Number 10, 30 goal seasons. Gartner had 17 of them. Mike Gartner had 17 30-goal seasons. That's crazy. I cannot imagine anybody getting 30 or 17 30-goal seasons again. I think Ovechkin could get to 15, but I can't see 17. I just can't. So that's number 10 on my list. Number 9, goals by defenseman. Ray Bourque had 410. Defensemen don't score the way they used to either. So that record is absolutely safe. Number 8, consecutive games mark for Doug Jarvis, 964. It's not unusual down the stretch to see a player get sat, so they have a rest day, or maybe they're injured and they're nursing an injury. I remember when Doug Jarvis broke the games played record. I remember Don Cherry going on a rant that night about how Doug Jarvis couldn't lick a stamp and how he avoided all body contact at all times, so no kidding, he's never injured. Which is a fair point. When you look and you see, like, for instance, I was looking at consecutive games and I saw Jerome McGinley with 441 for Calgary. That's crazy considering the game he played. He played a very physical game. So not missing a game in over 5 years is very impressive to me. And you almost need like a subcategory with power forwards who didn't miss a game and just put a Ginla's face on it. So Jarvis's record is impressive, 964 games. I don't think Cogliano will get to it. Cogliano's the one I'm watching, because I really think Andrew Cogliano is trying to get there. And he may prove me wrong and beat Jarvis's record. I think it would be great if he did. That record has stood for about 30 years. No, 30 years. It was 87 that Jarvis said it. Well, it was 87 before he missed a game. He set the record before that. Number 7, most hat tricks in a career. Gretzky had 50 of them. And these are hat tricks plus. So these are games where he scored 3 or more goals. Gretzky did it 50 times. 50. Just insane. Number 6, number 99 again. Most 100-point seasons. 15 by Wayne Gretzky. Most of those were in a row. And, he had 2 200-point seasons in there while he was at it. It was impressive to watch, and I don't think anybody ever beats that record. Number 5 on the list, Gordie Howe had 22 20-goal seasons. Keep in mind, he played in the WHA as well. So in between his first go-around in the NHL and then that last season with Hartford, he also played a bunch of years in the WHA. He could have put up way more goals. He could have had way more impressive records, and for all we know, if he played all those years in between in the NHL, he may have ended up scoring more goals than Gretzky has. He might have hit 1,000. He only ended up 199 goals away from 1,000. And he was in the WHA for a while. So, we'll never know, but he could have. Number 4 on the list for me is rookie goals. Solani's 76 and 92-93. Nobody's ever going to do that again. Nobody's ever going to get 76 goals in their rookie season. That's just not going to happen. I don't think 76 goals is going to happen again. So that for me is just completely untouchable. And because I have that goal record in there, I didn't count Gretzky's 92 goal season because that almost goes without saying. And it can be lumped into one of the other numbers I've got on the chart here. Number 3, Darryl Sittler's 10 points in a game in 1976. Can you imagine if a Leaf scored 10 points in a game now? They would be planning the parade. Unless it was against the 8th string goaltender from Vegas. You know, some guy Bobby up in row 10 because he won the 50-50 draw. And you didn't realize that you win the 50-50 draw, you get like $20 and you get to be Vegas's goaltender for a night. That'd be great. You won the 50-50 draw. Yay, I'm rich. No, here's some pads. Pardon? Yeah, you're going in net. What? Number 2, Glen Hall's consecutive game streak for a goaltender, 502. Nobody will ever hit a season again. No goaltender will ever play 82 games. Any coach that would play their goaltender 82 games would rightfully need to have their head read. It was a different game. Glen Hall's record is going to stand forever. And number 1 is, I should just say Gretzky. 894 goals, 1,963 assists, 2,857 points, 92 goals in a season. I think he had 163 assists in one season, or 164, and 215 points in a season. None of those are going to get threatened. But the one thing that I want to add to this, I was thinking about this yesterday at work, is when all these records were being set by Gretzky, he took on an air almost like a godlike figure. Not just in Canada either, but in the States. So when he went to the Kings, it was a huge deal. And it changed hockey forever. We all debate about whether or not a 2-1 game or a 4-3 game is more exciting. But if you want to bring in casual fans, goals or fights will do it. That game between the Flames and the Red Wings last night, that's going to be on every American sportscast from Washington State to Florida. And they're not going to talk about the game much. They're probably going to throw in, Detroit won, but who cares? They're going to show the fight. So fights and goals will attract casual viewers. So again, we can enjoy a low-scoring game. The best example I can use for this is, when was baseball most popular? I would argue it's most popular while Mark McGuire and Sammy Sosa were crushing the record books. Yeah, we know it was steroids. We knew at the time it was steroids. I'd figured out years before that. I remember Brian Downing went from a skinny, regular-sized baseball player to big and jacked. And I saw him at the plate in a game, and I was like, that's Brian Downing? Holy crap. And suddenly he was a power hitter. So that was about when it started. And then, you know, McGuire famously, and Canseco and Sosa and all these other guys. Rafael Palmeiro. I did not. Yeah, you did. And yet that's the era that baseball was most popular, because there was a lot of home runs. There was lots of runs being scored, a lot of excitement. Goals are exciting. And again, I'm going to preface this by saying this. My favorite baseball players ever are Steve Rogers from the Montreal Expos, Jimmy Key from the Blue Jays, Tom Glavine and Greg Maddux from the Braves. All pitchers. I love a pitching duel, but it doesn't attract casual fans. Just like a goalie duel doesn't attract casual fans either. So when the NHL looks at these records and they say, man, we need another Gretzky, and it'll happen at some point. I don't think it'll happen under Bettman. Bettman just doesn't care about that. But at some point we're going to have a commissioner or somebody in power in the NHL that says, all these records, we need to figure out a way to get scoring back in the game. We need a way to get back there. They're going to figure it out. And whether it's going to be bigger nets, goalies have threatened to retire if they go to bigger nets. But it's weird because goalies used to be 5'6", now they're 6'5". There's a lot more net they can cover just by standing there. So it'll be interesting to see what they do. But I do think that eventually the NHL is going to do something drastic to increase scoring so that these records are at least approachable. And it's going to make a lot of fans angry, but they'll do it to try to attract casual fans. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. And again, I'm not saying I would like it if they did that to change the whole game for casual fans, but I can see them doing it. Personally, I love the game the way it is. I think, a little bit more scoring is sometimes fun. Crazy third periods where 7 goals are scored, they're fun to watch. But in general, I do like just a really good, strong game for both teams. I find it really exciting when it's a 1-goal game and it's close and it's 2-1 with 2 minutes left and they got a power play and they could tie it up. That I find really exciting. So again, I'm not advocating it. I'm just saying that's where it's going to end up. Let me know what you guys think, and I'll talk to you again soon.